In the summer of 1974, while America buzzed with excitement over the filming of Jaws in Massachusetts and kids traded baseball cards under the scorching July sun, a girl and her dog made a discovery that would freeze time. It was out in the rolling dunes of Provincetown, a place known for its artists, beaches, and quiet escape. But what she stumbled upon on that day would become one of the most chilling and enduring mysteries in American history. On a summer day in 1974, a woman's body was found, her hands missing, and her name a mystery for decades. It's July 26, 1974. Cape Cod's sun is high, and the air smells of salt and pine. A teenage girl out walking her dog through the Race Point dunes strays from the trail. It's not unusual. Locals often wander these paths. But this time, something stops her. Lying face down in a patch of thick brush is what she first assumes is a mannequin. But as she gets closer, the illusion collapses, and the truth is far worse. The body of a woman is sprawled out on a beach towel, lying face down. A pair of Wrangler jeans and a blue bandana were beneath her head, like a pillow. And her long auburn hair was pulled back into a ponytail by a gold-flecked elastic hair tie. The sun had baked her body for an estimated week, possibly two. But the most disturbing part, her hands were gone, cut off. Several of her teeth were also missing. Her skull had been caved in with a brutal blow. Despite the violence, her body is posed gently, almost as if someone maybe possibly cared or wanted it to seem like they did. The woman appears to be between 25 and 40 years old, approximately 5'6", athletic build, painted toenails pink polish. She's not dressed for hiking or camping. No purse, no ID, nothing to tell police who she is or where she's from. What they do find are two major clues. Her dental work, and it's not ordinary. It's expensive, professional, and features gold crowns costing anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000. However, several of her teeth have been removed. This leads investigators to believe that she might have been from New York or even Europe, where the type of dental work was more common. The severed hands and missing teeth, whoever killed her wanted her to remain a Jane Doe. They didn't want her fingerprints or dental records to match. This wasn't a crime of passion, it looked calculated. Forensic testing showed that she had likely died sometime in early to mid-July, and that the blow to her skull was fatal. The weapon? Possibly a military-style entrenching tool, like a small, sharp-edged shovel. Despite national coverage, posters, clay constructions of the face, no one comes forward to identify her. Years pass. New facial reconstructions are attempted in the 80s and then again in the 2000s, using everything from clay modeling to digital 3D scanning. She becomes known as the Lady of the Dunes, a ghost of Provincetown. Police chased dozens of leads. Was she a sex worker, a traveler, a local? One theory suggested that she might have been a mob victim, the mutilation assigned to others. Another, that she was killed by a jealous lover, or someone trying to cover up her identity due to something even darker. But none of it sticks, until a strange pop culture theory surfaces decades later. In 2015, author and Jaws superfan Joe Hill, son of Stephen King, is watching the movie Jaws, which, remember, was being filmed on Martha's Vineyard the same summer that the lady was killed. In the background of one of the scenes, he notices something strange. A woman in the crowd watching the 4th of July festivities. And she's wearing a blue bandana and jeans, eerily similar to what the Lady of the Dunes was found in. Could she have been an extra in Jaws, placing her near the filming location just before her death? That theory goes viral. But despite intense internet sleuthing and police interest, no definite connection was made. Still, the Lady of the Dunes continues to haunt the case files until almost 50 years later, a cold gust blows this case wide open. For nearly 50 years, she was a ghost on the dunes. No name, no justice. Just a woman brutally murdered, left to decay beneath the Cape Cod sun. Thousands walked past her cold case in newspaper archives. Artists drew her face. Scientists reconstructed her skull. But none of that mattered. That is, until 2022, when a breakthrough pulled her from the shadows and unearthed something even more chilling than anyone expected. The years passed, forensic sketches changed, theories swirled, but nothing stuck. Detectives were haunted by the case. Some claimed they even dreamt about her. Provincetown locals left flowers near the spot where she was found. Ghost tours even started including her. But the file stayed cold. Then, in the later 2000s, something began shifting. With the rise of genetic genealogy, old cold cases across the country began cracking right open. It was the same tech that caught the Golden State Killer, and in 2021, the FBI made the Lady of the Dunes a priority. Her remains were exhumed again, but this time they had something different. Her DNA, full, mapped, and ready to run. The work was painstaking. Investigators worked with the Othram Labs, a private DNA company that specializes in solving the unsolvable. By comparing her DNA to public genealogy databases and building out an extensive family tree, they slowly chipped away at her identity. And finally, in October of 2022, nearly 5 decades after her murder, the FBI made the announcement. Her name was Ruth Marie Terry. For decades, she was just the Lady of the Dunes, but Ruth Marie Terry lived a full life long before the day she vanished. She was born on September 8, 1936, in a modest mountainside shack in Whitwell, Tennessee, to Johnny and Eva Terry. Life was hard. Her mother Eva died young, just 23 years old. Ruth grew up tough, like the land around her, learning early how to survive. In 1957, after a brief failed marriage, Ruth left her hometown behind and moved north, eventually finding work at the Fisher Body Automotive plant in Livonia, Michigan. It was there that she gave birth to a baby boy, Richard, in 1958. But Ruth, struggling financially, made a heart-wrenching decision. She allowed her boss, Richard Hanchett Sr., to adopt her son in exchange for covering her debts. After that, she left Michigan and headed west to California. In 1972, she reached out to her son hoping for a reunion, but tragedy intervened. Richard had suffered a drug overdose and was in a coma for 18 days. He wasn't ready to meet her, and that door quietly closed. 2 years later, on February 16, 1974, Ruth married Guy Rockwell, Moldavan, a smooth-talking antiques dealer that she met in Reno, Nevada, a man with a dark past. 4 months before her murder, Ruth and Guy visited her family in Whitwell. But something was off. Her niece later said that Ruth wasn't herself around Guy. He was possessive, controlling, and constantly watching her. Ruth's half-brother, Kenneth, remembered how, before leaving, they mentioned plans to travel the U.S. for antiques, Massachusetts among their stops. And then Ruth vanished. Months later, Moldavan returned alone to Tennessee. He told the family that Ruth had simply gone missing from their California home. No panic, no answers. Her brother James hired a private investigator who delivered a suspicious story. All her belongings had been sold, and she had supposedly run off with a religious cult. For decades, her family didn't know if she were dead or in hiding. Her name began appearing in family obituaries as deceased, but part of them still held out hope. Some thought maybe she had joined the witness protection program, that she wanted to disappear. They had no idea that she had been buried beneath the sand in Provincetown all along. If Ruth was married just months before her death, investigators had one question. Where was her husband during all of this? The answer? Chilling. Guy Moldavan had a very dark history. In the 1960s, he had been connected to the disappearance of a second wife and her daughter. At the time, their body parts were found in a septic tank, but police couldn't conclusively link him to the crime. He got off, he vanished, and reappeared years later under a new name. By the early 1970s, he had met Ruth. They married in 1974, the same year she was murdered. According to her family, after the wedding, Ruth traveled with Guy to the Northeast, supposedly to visit his home. After that, they never heard from her again. Years later, in the early 2000s, Guy Moldavan died, never facing any charges in connection to Ruth's death. But now, with DNA evidence and a timeline that matches too well, he is the prime suspect, posthumously. With Ruth Marie Terry's identity finally restored, she was reburied under her real name. Her family held a private service remembering the woman that they had lost, the pain of nearly half a century of silence. But the Lady of the Dunes case isn't truly closed, because even though we now know who she was and likely who killed her, no one has been held accountable. No trial, no confession, just a name, a past, and a legacy of silence. For 48 years, she was known only by the wind and the sand, her name taken, her story a mystery. But Ruth Marie Terry was never just the Lady of the Dunes. She was a sister, a daughter, a woman who loved Elvis and sunshine, and who wore pink nail polish and once believed in a fresh start.